In this video we're going to add the final component to our adaptive frame. So probably a good time to save. You might notice also that in Revit they will continually, as you save something, at every kind of major save, it'll create another file. So these are kind of your backups, at every kind of major step. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, I've also had some issues, and there'll be recovery files that are created if you crash right in the middle of it. So again, these are kind of fail safes that are created in Revit. And you can also, under options, kind of control how often that might happen. So anyway, things to note. Here you go, 30 minutes. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a point and stick that on the canvas somewhere. Probably up in the air. And we're going to make that an adaptive component too. And here, what we want to do is, what I'm trying to do is create that point that will adjust the behavior of the frame. And this point will be kind of in common of all the frames. So the next step is to draw what it will connect to. So I'm going to do a diagonal line between these corners. So I've selected these two, 1 and 3, and I'll go ahead and do that spline through points and make that a reference line, and then do the other corners, same thing. And then I'm going to put a point right at the intersection. So to get that just right, I might need to manage and go to snaps and turn off nearest so that it grabs the intersection. The other thing you can do is you could type in SI. Let's see if that works also. So if I'm creating that point, I type in SI, it's not finding that intersection, unfortunately. Alright, so I'm going to just try that one more time. SI, and then there you go, it has an X for intersection. So what that is, that represents kind of represents the centroid of this frame. And realize that you're doing this because you would have kind of custom forms for your curtain wall. So we have that point, and we're going to select it, and we're going to orbit so we can see that 5th point, and we're going to select it. We're going to do the same thing, spline through points, and make it a reference. And then the next step is to create a dimension connecting those 2 points. So I want you to first set and make sure you've selected that. What that's going to do is it's going to make sure that the dimension string isn't orthogonal to the Cartesian, but it's going to be actually running along this reference plane. So set that, and then do a dimension from that point to that point, pull it off somewhere. Alright, so then this represents that dimension. So as we move this, it adjusts. That's exactly what we want. Okay, the next part is a little tricky. I have found this to be not as straightforward as it really should be, and I think it's a glitch that Revit has. Or it's just my understanding is a little bit backwards. What I want you to do is create a parameter. We're going to just call this D. And it does matter if you do a big or little d, just as far as how you will reference this later. I'm going to do an instance and I always forget the order of this. I'm going to start it off with being a reporting parameter, and we'll see if this works. Okay, so say, actually no, just have it as an instance, and say okay, and then in the family types, we're going to adjust distance1 to actually be a formula of that distance. And so again, remember, you have to be specific with D20 capitalized in those cases. Okay, so right now, as this adjusts, you should see the various pieces adjust. So we'll make it somewhat extreme. And you can see it begin to adjust accordingly. Let's make sure that that's actually working. So as it gets further away, these things get larger, closer, they get smaller. So it looks like that's working. Okay, so the next step is to adjust D. What we need it to be is a reporting parameter. Okay, so I did not do that correctly. Okay, as I said, that there's a very specific way that these want to be built. So I'm going to build this one more time. So you're going to use the create parameter and use D and just keep it on type for now. And then under family types, we will add the formula. Now realize the annoying part about this is that if you want to change that formula later, you're going to have to kind of re-establish the parameters, and I'll talk about that here in a second. So then I'm going to edit the D, and I'm going to make it an instance reporting. And then suddenly all these things get locked in. This one's locked because it's going to be a reporting parameter, and these get locked because they're referencing kind of each other. So if you decide that 20 is like not ideal and you want to make it 10 or 40, or you want to multiply instead of divide, what you would do is essentially just delete the D and then just re-establish it again. So you would select a dimension and go up here and make the new parameter, make it type, and then switch it later as you get the formula you want. So it's a little bit tricky. I don't like that. I don't know why it's being so angry about that, but that's the way it is. Alright, so now we've got that. The last step is then to apply that to a surface. So to do something that I'll just do a family and conceptual mass. Now you'll go in and you'll apply it to your building. Wherever you feel like it's needed. One of the two street fronts would be good, but I'll just show you some new, some other tricks while we're at it. So I've got that. I'm going to set my plane to be vertical. So then if I copy and move that, it should go into vertical dimension. Alright, so now I'll select those two. And again, I'm creating form. And this is the nice thing, is that if I need to adjust this, it kind of automatically adjusts. If I want to edit the profile, I can just edit, and this should edit. That's pretty cool. So this is how you might create your own custom surfaces. Pretty easy to do. Probably don't want it to be, for my purposes in demoing, something so really crazy. So then we'll just divide this surface, and I'll divide it to something a little less dense. Again, you'd have your own that you've already created, but now we'll just, this is the next trick, is to get down to so you can see the nodes. So I hit this little arrow here, and then I'm clicking on nodes. So what you should see is these points at your division. And now what I want to do is load in my family. This is the custom frame. I'm going to load that into this new project, this new family. And then it's going to ask you to pick some points. Oh, I forgot one thing. I want to create another point that it can move to. That's our 5th point from our frame. So we want to have that available. Alright, so again, I've already loaded it, so now I can just go to component and it'll be that one. So this is the frame, and what I'm going to do is in series I'm going to make sure you can see that magenta point selected, so it's going to snap to there, and I'm just going to build it in the same order that it was built. So just go in clockwise fashion and select 4 points, and then it'll have the 5th point it's asking for now. I'm a little nervous that's not actually grabbing that. There we go. There it's highlighted. Alright, there appears to be a few issues. Let me try a couple things. Let's go back into that family. And I want you to select each of these points, these adaptive points, and let's make them by the host XYZ instead of the instance. And then let's load that back into the project. And always say yes to the parameter values. Okay, so let's just check, move this point, make sure that that part is working. It looks like that adjusted. It's a little extreme. I think my divide by 20 was probably not a good idea. Maybe by 50 would have been better. It's reacting a little bit too strongly to this distance. So then the last step would be to select that, and you can go up here to repeat, and you click on that, and what it's going to do is aggregate this across this entire surface. Now it's not going to get quite the results I wanted because I did this really curvilicious surface, so I think I'm going to find some collisions, and specifically now that it's divided by 20, it's a little bit also too hyperactive as far as how far it's extruding. But the magic is that you did it once, and by hitting that repeat here in a moment, until my laptop's having a bit of a struggle to get this rendered, but as soon as it gets done here, you'll see that it's populated across that entire surface. And there you go. Alright, so I probably would want to go in and change that divide by 20 to something a little bit less extreme, but yeah, it's pretty good. So you want to apply this to one of your surfaces, whichever one that makes sense. Just do it to one. I'm going to do in the next video some other adaptive component that you might put on the other facade. All right, thanks.